ready to go here. Well, it is like the ninth inning at Keeneland, believe it or not. I see a smiling Tommy Murphy joining me. Joe Bianca, a little under the weather, but we're glad to have you, everybody, with us on this April 23rd edition.
Third,
Yeah,
yeah.
I checked my phone for the date. All the days blend together at this stage of the game, especially coming home from a week in Ocala. But it's Jason and Tommy. Glad you're with us. And, Tommy, looking at not only the calendar, but just like what's on tap for us, for West Point Thoroughbreds, I was like, wow, it's only 3 days as we tape this on Tuesday. There's only 3 days left this spring at Keeneland.
I know it feels like it just started. So I guess maybe it's a good thing. Time flies when you're having fun and your horses are running fast. But at the same time, I wish it was lasting a little bit longer. But so far, I think we've had a fantastic Keeneland meet. We've had a great group of partners out for a lot of our horses. All the horses have run really well for the most part. And we've kind of caught fire a little bit lately with a couple wins here. So it's been a great time. Hopefully we finish on a strong note with these last 3 days of racing.
Definitely, because we do have Atomic Blonde. It's great having her back and on the cusp of her 5-year-old season. I was a little, and we'll talk about her race in Friday's Bewitched. That's the closing day stake on the card, closing day feature. I was a little disheartened to see, and I'm a huge Warlike Goddess fan. I'm sure you are too. It's probably impossible to not be a huge fan of hers if you're a fan of racing. But I was like, oh man, she's coming back as a 7-year-old. But good to see Atomic Blonde in the mix. We'll have, of course, 3 starters on the Wednesday card, that closing Wednesday card at Keeneland, which we'll talk about. I think clearly Coinvest is, maybe the star of the show, although I'm hoping all 3 of our horses run well. I also, Tommy, want to ask before I share my screen, what's going on in your world, my friend? This was your first Keeneland spring meet working for the stable, which is great, but everything else okay in Kentucky? Because,
Oh yeah.
I mean, what are we? A week, less than 2 weeks out to the Derby.
Yep. I actually this morning woke up bright and early, went to backside, make sure I was there by 7:30 on the dot, because that's for any Louisville folks. Everyone knows Derby horses and Oaks horses get to the track. They get their 15 minutes of fame, if you will, from 7:30 to 7:45. So I went out just to get some eyes on them, and it's that time of year where I have the itch to just be there, be at the track, see some of these horses work, obviously see our own as well. But everything's going great here in Louisville. And I could feel it kind of starting in the city with Thunder on Saturday, which is awesome downtown. And it's just really, it's just starting to get to me real bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's Derby. So, I mean, that's a big deal for the city of Louisville and Kentucky. And we, of course, know how important the Kentucky Derby is just in terms of the race and the brand and all that. But it's extra special this year with Derby 150. Have you felt, again, a little bit of a different vibe, maybe even at this point with a week and change to go?
Think so. I think, especially kind of on the backside, there are a lot of people that really want to win that race. And you can kind of feel it. Everyone's kind of, everyone is, kind of on edge and nervous a little before leading up to the Derby, because they just, a lot of times just want to run the race. I think there's this time it's a little more so because, you win the 150th Kentucky Derby, you'll forever be remembered, even more so than just already winning the Kentucky Derby, I think. So,
Well, good. I'll be there in attendance. Christina and I graciously were invited with Mike Rapoli to go with his family. So it'll be I guess, a quasi work trip, because West Point, we've got a number of horses running Friday and Saturday. Cagino certainly comes to mind, perhaps Integration. We've got Sedona. So, no, we've got some serious firepower running, and looking forward to seeing everybody at Churchill Downs, Oaks, and Derby Day. In the meantime, and certainly thinking ahead to, maybe Kentucky Derby 151, we've got limited availability on 4 colts, 3 of whom were purchased last week at the OBS April sale. And that was a sale last season that was great to us. Thinking no further than even Slider and Carson's Run, we've also got the Euro that's got like the stretch ride vibes, which is great with the upstart who's going to trainer Arnaud Delacour. But a nice group here, Tommy. I am in love with the Astern. There is something for everybody, but if you see something you potentially like, the point is, shoot your rep, shoot Allie Finley, shoot your rep a text, because these horses have sold, and we thank everybody that has bought. They've been selling wonderfully and very quickly. But again, it's a limited time and a finite supply. But I mean, what'd you think of the horses we bought last week?
I was obviously I wasn't able to make it down for the sale, so I was seeing them a lot of them through the screen, but I was thrilled with all the horses we were able to take home. And a lot of them I think were really, really well bought. Just about everyone you could say in my mind, just based on physical, I look and think, wow, we got him for this much, really? And I love Jimmy Creed, so I have a soft spot already for the Jimmy Creed cult, who's got him on top and bottom of the pedigree, interestingly enough. So I'm very, very much looking forward to hopefully seeing this horse in person soon, and just looks like an awesome Jimmy Creed type horse.
Yeah, definitely on the heels of Slider, and the success of West Point and Jimmy Creed. It's part of like stable lore. Just thinking again, no further than our good buddy Slider, who we're going to win the Allen Jerkins with. You watch Travers Day,
I love
we're
it.
winning the Jerkins. I'm calling it now. But Kanthaka is another sort of locally famous son of Jimmy Creed that was campaigned by West Point a few years back. So again, the price is right. We love Tom Morley, but again, there is something for everyone with these four colts here: the More Than Ready, the Astern, the JC, and of course the Euro Upstart. Let's bounce over, Tommy. I mean, we'll get to what's on tap, but and I had all these actually
Uh,
earmarked and bookmarked on. Shame on you, YouTube.
Always have to
Shame
get the
on
ads in.
you. Oh my God. It was all, here we go. It was all lined up to Cagliostro, who will pick this race up in progress here. I don't like with the YouTube app, because I use the app, but there's
Oh
no
yeah.
volume slider. So again, if I
Oh
was using the
yeah.
app like I normally would, we'd have the great Kurt Becker, who we love, just we'd be talking over him. But anyway,
Exactly.
here's Cagliostro. Tommy, you were there, red cap. He's beating a very good Rapoli and St. Elias horse in Dreamlike. I texted Cherie after this race and said, just a phenomenal training job. This was an awesome 4-year-old debut out of Cagliostro.
Yeah, it was just I knew he was going to run well. I honestly didn't think he was going to run that well. And there towards the end, I was yelling for the wire, and of course I was at under just in time, just a perfect trip. And he did what he needed to do, especially with how Keeneland's been playing, very speed favoring. So he gets him out, covers a lot of these horses, and gets to the front. And he goes in some pretty reasonable fractions, I thought, and just again rode him to perfection. And like you mentioned, that Rapoli Pletcher horse that was coming after him was scaring me. And for him to come off the bench, put in that kind of effort, and not let that horse get to him and get to the wire in time, I thought was extremely impressive.
98 buyer for Cagliostro, who had been doing sort of not the B tier list or series of derbies, but I think was wisely campaigned last season. But although he was in some good spots and hinted that he was great at quality, I felt pretty good, not only about the effort, but him really signaling that as a 4-year-old, we're likely going to be dealing with a bigger, better, stronger, faster version than the Cagliostro of 2023. Am I crazy, Tommy? I mean, off this performance, and again, beating a very good Pletcher horse in Dreamlike, what do you think of this? You got the June 1st blame at Churchill, and then long range, maybe first real major goal for Cagliostro this season could be the Stephen Foster. Am I crazy bringing up those two races?
I mean, normally I would say yes, but with the training job Cherie's done with this horse, I don't think it's completely out of the question. In club following on, horse racing Twitter. I don't know if you saw anything the night after his win, but there was some mumblings about him. People were excited to get him back, and just the way he ran, a lot of people were excited. So I think this is one that some people have their eyes on. So I don't think it's completely out of the question.
Did you see that video, by the way? I mean, speaking of like Cagliostro on social media, Rachel Sells, who works for Cherie, I believe last summer she was the barn foreman or forewoman in this case, and we love Rachel and she loves Cagliostro. She texted me some video of Cagliostro getting his post race banana fed to him like a human would eat a banana in a stall. Did you happen to see that video
I
I
did. That
posted?
was awesome. You got to get your potassium in after a big win like that. I think that's another reason, we love this horse. He's kind of a goofball. And he's just, a fun, cool horse. And for him to be able to put in that effort again off the layoff and just be so calm, cool, collected afterwards is just, again, speaks volumes to Cherie and her staff.
And there's such a good connection here because he is, after all, a colt by Upstart, and
Yes.
perfect timing with that Upstart colt going to Arnaud Delacour. We bought two Upstarts last week. One's going to Cherie. That horse is sold out, but we do have some room remaining on the Arnaud Upstart from Europe. Again, same sort of background and story as Stretch Ride, who we bought in France last May. And we had a lot of fun with Stretch Ride, and we will continue to do so when he comes back after just needing a little bit of time away from the racetrack. Northern Invader, my friend, is up next. A 2-win Friday. That penultimate Friday of the April meet at Keeneland was a good one for the stable, man. Watched both these races from Florida and was really pumped up. We'll pick up Tommy Northern Invader in action. And what was your confidence level like at this point down the backside when he was kind of just free running on the lead and was able to essentially get over from the outside post?
Yeah, and honestly, my confidence level skyrocketed in the paddock. Just seeing him physically and how good he looked, he looked a lot better than what he did last time I saw him when he ran on that off track at Churchill in November. So from that point, I was already, through the roof excited with him. And just Jose really almost gave the exact same ride he gave Cagliostro 2 races before, which really helps, I think. We got the same trainer, same jockey, and the game plan didn't really change with any of them. And, he did what he had to do, went, cleared some horses, took control. You'll see him here just go nice and easy. He was at 23 and a half. I think he slows it down a decent bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can see he's just moving so comfortably. These other horses starting to bunch up behind him. And then Jose just knows he's got a lot of horse underneath him. 48 flat. About here, I kind of thought, all right, I think we got these guys. And, we get these horses coming up to his outside, and he's just so game and just doesn't let anyone buy him. You can see Jose starting to move on him a little bit, and then that's kind of night night. It's no one's going to get him here because again, the Keeneland, both turf and dirt courses, I think are really speed favoring nowadays, or this meet at least. And he was right where he needed to be here, and he held off a late charge from I think his Balloony here, who ran real well, I thought, and his figure came back awesome. And I was really happy to get him back to winning ways after some not so great races on a fairgrounds, and I've been waiting on to see this horse for a while.
Yeah, me too. Fairgrounds, wintertime for him, that brand new turf course. Not that he ran poorly in the Big Easy over the winter time. The word I kept coming up with, especially after how great he ran on Friday at Keeneland, was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I think most of us felt as though there's a way better version of Northern Invader in there somewhere. And my hope was maybe he just, for whatever reason, didn't like that Fairgrounds turf course, just didn't really hit his best stride in NOLA, and we'd get something akin to the Northern Invader that we saw last season on the grass. And I still think this horse, I mean, I'd like to think, much like a Cagliostro, I'd like to think there's another level or two we have yet to see with this guy. And I love that. How great is his face, man? It
I love
almost
it.
looks like someone took like a paint roller just with white paint, like,
You can't miss
Tom
him.
Sawyer and Huck Finn, and just right down the middle of his face.
It's almost like, when he's turning for home, he's like a big flashlight. You seriously can't miss him. It's he's unmistakable when you see him in the flesh, and as he's affectionately nicknamed Chonk, it was awesome to see him get back to winning ways.
Definitely. So you've got an Ontario bred with Northern Invader, and clearly Cherie will find the right spot for him. But in your neck of the woods at Churchill Downs, which, by the way, they've drawn the opening night card. It's past my bedtime, but we will talk about our Philly Happy Am I running at a quarter to 11 p.m. Oh my God, Churchill, you're killing me. Can't we run that as like the third race so I could go to bed? But no, at Churchill, we've got a race June 1st, the Arlington Stakes. But again, you may have, and I didn't look at the Woodbine offerings in terms of like turf horses and Ontario breds, but we'll have some options is my point with this guy, Tommy. And we know Cherie will make the right choice for him moving forward.
Exactly. Like you said, both Cagliostro and Northern Invader both have plenty of options ahead of them. So, and Cherie's just one of the best in the business. And I think really is going to find the best spot for both of these horses, as she does for all the horses in their barn, and take care of them.
Nice. Big winner's circle. There's Pauline Burke. I see the boss.
The
You were
boss,
in there
yep.
somewhere. Good
It was
stuff,
a great
man.
crowd Friday for him, so it was awesome.
Yeah,
Let me get it done.
he's definitely, we love all our horses. I mean, it's just, I guess that's just human nature. You just, it's inevitable. You're going to get more attached to some horses, and yeah, it seems like the vibe with him is just really really strong, and people are like Northern Invader crazy, not only within
Yeah.
West Point, but again going back to the Twitterverse
Oh yes.
and just being at the races. He is definitely a favorite, and yeah, congrats to Cherie, of course, and Callio and Northern for just running so well on Friday there. So I did touch upon Tommy, and we'll talk about pretty much everybody that's entered as of 3 p.m. or so on this Tuesday, the April 23rd. We don't have PPs yet. I checked right
Mm-hmm.
before we started taping
As
this
did
to see
I.
if you did as well. But yeah, man, I mean, Derby week starts with that Twilight card at Churchill, which I had I had our horses down here all winter, Tommy, but oh man, I'm FOMOing pretty hard. I'm a little jealous, man. Even though it'll be a late night for you, it'll
I
be
did well.
so cool having a stakes horse in 7 days out from Derby 150, and we're gonna see come. I mean, really late on Saturday with Johnny V, just how good Happy Am I is.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Kurt getting a real litmus test. Say, all right, you've proved yourself these last, I think she's on a 3 race win streak. Just really beating up on some horses. So now it's time to say, all right, let's take you against some nicer competition and see how you play there. And on paper, looking at the names here, just to my eye, I think Dazzling Blue is going to be a tough horse. I would imagine she might be the favorite. Her Last Leaf, I think those are the two names that I'm looking at that I think got a really good shot to win. We're gonna have to break sharp from the rail, and as we know, she's got a lot of speed. And usually Churchill speed holds in the first couple weeks of the meet, especially just because only horses that have been on the track there are workers, so that inside, right next to the rail, is pretty usually the fastest area, and it gets slower as you move out in the middle of the track. But I'm looking forward to it. It's as you alluded to, we have Johnny V up, so that's never a bad thing. So hopefully we can break sharp there and try and get one done here and open it at Churchill.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Can't wait to handicap that race. And I certainly, by the time I go to bed tonight, will without a doubt handicap it. After we wrap up, it's so nice here down in Fort Lauderdale. It was hot yesterday and hot last week, but the humidity has broke. It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna go out, take a nice little 5 mile run, give or take, maybe do a little yoga before, a little bit of stretching, but there
There
will
you
be
go.
time for some handicapping. If we live closer, Tommy, I would come by and pick you up so we could jog together, but maybe we'll
I could
save
use
that for
it.
Saratoga this summer. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. I'll hold you to that.
I'm going to hold you to it.
I know. I don't
Absolutely.
know about 5 miles. That's a long way for me. I could probably do it on a bike, but or walking maybe, but that might take a while. I'd prefer to go take my steps on a golf course if it's up to me.
Or maybe we'll get our steps in just walking around the backstretch in the races at Saratoga
Even better.
together. All right, good, good. And in fact, maybe we'll have the great Dale Romans join us. Spent pretty much all of last week. In fact, broke a little bread with Dale, and the stories, as always, were flowing. Even the ones I've heard before, and I had pretty much heard all of them, and I was telling everybody, and they were laughing. The Dale stories were just as good as the first time I had heard all of them. But we've got and he's, by the way, my point in mentioning that was, I mean, Dale is probably a third of the size that he was, maybe even less than that. He looks great. He's spry and moving around like a cat, and I hope to see him making a beeline for the Keeneland Winners Circle tomorrow on Wednesday the 24th. Our first of 3 Keeneland horses, Tommy, is, in my estimation, and putting it, I guess, somewhat bluntly, is taking a needed drop in class. This was a horse that needed a run at Gulfstream. In hindsight, I didn't love that spot. I mean, we were nearly 60-1 and completely outrun back on Fountain of Youth Day. But I like the notion of just putting Mo Rhodes, who if I ever pen or I decide to try to produce a movie, like have him fighting Godzilla or King Kong,
Yeah.
because he's about the size of those. I mean,
He's
he
huge.
is he's probably the biggest horse in the stable. I mean, just off the top of my head, he is
Yeah,
massive. So
monsters.
he's going 2 turns, my friend, and he's in for the maiden 50. What are we thinking with Mo Rhodes?
I'm like you. I'm pleased to see with the maiden 50, a little class drop, and you can see back on his running lines there. BU won his last race. You can see Real Men Violin and Track Phantom back at Churchill when he ran in the slop. You see EJ won the Cup, who's been running in some graded stakes races out west. So
Yep.
there's some nice horses there. So I think it's just time to put him against some easier horses, kind of ease it up. Like you said, he's a big horse, so a mile and 16 to 2 turns at Churchill is going to give him the time to get going. And I hope with Martin Garcia up that he kind of hustles him out of the gate a little bit. I haven't seen that from him in any of his races yet. To show a little bit of urgency would I think would be nice, and just kind of get him more forwardly placed, and then let him make his run from there. That's what I hope to see from him.
There's no speed. I mean, there is a real
Yeah.
dearth of pace on paper. And look, they've all got to potentially overcome a very tepid pace. And there's not a lot of
Yeah.
really proven form in this race. It's kind of not a soft looking maiden 50, but clearly you have a number of horses that have run in special weight competition that just haven't shown much, that are taking a realistic and needed dip down in class. So we'll wrap up by saying we hope that helps bring out the best of Mo Rhodes in his second start back. I thought the 8 Ruse looked a little interesting. 15-1 seemed way too high. I'm gonna potentially. I don't like betting against our horses, and I probably won't bet the race in general. But if I was betting, he's a horse I'd give a look to. I don't know about 15, but I think the 8 horse by Blame is going to run pretty well. But good luck to Mo Rhodes. We've also got Coinvest, Tommy. In fact, the race right after. You'll be a
Hmm.
busy man going from the paddock, hopefully the winner's circle, back out to the paddock, and a little bit of a preview. Clash of the Titans. Fierceness for Todd. Shipped to Churchill Downs yesterday. Galloped over the main track this morning.
I
I
saw him
know,
this
and I
morning.
read. Yeah. Oh, did you see him? How do you look?
Yeah, he looked fantastic. It was the first time I've seen him in a while, and I'm just happy to see him go by. And he looked picture perfect, so got me even more excited. But anyway, I digress.
No, it's all good, my friend. And you'll have to let me know what you think of Sierra Leone, who also arrived from Keeneland. You've got Todd and Chad sending out the top 2 choices in Derby 150 a week and a half from now, and they will send out the top 2 choices in Wednesday's 4th race, a 1 mile 3 and up maiden special weight. I think for me, Tommy, Co-Invest, just the more he runs, the better he's going to be, the stronger he's going to be.
I agree. Like you can see from his first to second race, jump 10 speed figure points, whatever you want to call him. But that Chad
Yeah.
horse to the inside looks to be what I thought to be the biggest competition. But to me, what caught my eye was 2 different running styles. The Chad's horse looks like it's going to want to make a big move, come from behind, and then Co-Invest's shown he's got speed and he can kind of stalk right off of that pace. So I'd love to get Irad back. And I always, again, I already mentioned this, but I like to think both these courses at Churchill in the opening few weeks or so favor a little bit some speed horses, kind of like Keeneland is doing right now. So I think us being close to that lead there. Excuse me, this is at Keeneland. I'm thinking already of Derby. You've got me all over the place, Jason.
But speed's good.
But
Speed's
yes,
good. That's the point.
regardless,
And we've
I
got, you would think we've
like the
got way
speed.
more speed than Chad's horse.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think we might have a little bit of rain here in the Commonwealth overnight. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. But to me, I think this looks like a perfect spot to finally, break through with them. He's been so close twice now and just, hasn't had enough to get it done. And it looks like this could be the spot to break through here and graduate onto the allowance ranks.
And I think that turf course will just fit him better. He's kind of, even though he's got a cruising speed to him and he ran very well in his 2 races down here this winter, he's a little grindy, a little bit
Yeah.
one-paced. And I think that Gulfstream Park turf course, again, speed horses can kind of just hit you over the head like with blunt force trauma, and they'll keep finding more. I feel like this turf course at Keeneland will just be a little more comfortable, for lack of a better word there, for Coinvest. But good luck to him. Obviously, we own him with some high-powered stables and people with Mike Rapoli and Vinny Viola, and would love to get the maiden win with him, and hopefully think of some bigger things moving forward as we really expect him to keep progressing. We're in a tough spot as we jump over to race number 8 with Doolgaroux, Louisiana bred. And I think it comes down to it, Tommy, because he's going to be a very high price in this open company maiden special weight on the grass. I think the feeling is Horseshoe Indianapolis for the summertime, or at least in the near future, will be the right spot for him. But as you know, with them having just opened, all their writing is basically like 4.5 and 5.5 furlong races, which aren't a good fit. So we'll run here, and then I think the plan will be to for lack of a better term, take a little bit of a step back before we get them back with the Labreds.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, they're not using the turf course up at Horseshoe a whole lot just yet. So it just gives a little bit. Let's get warmer outside up here in a Midwestern part of the state, if you will. But just for him, I mean, being a lot bred in these open company races isn't necessarily a bad thing. We just had Spotted Hounds from a really nice third at Keeneland being a lot bred. So you never know, great, nice horses can come from anywhere. But here, like you said, it just looks like this was about the only spot that semi fit him that's coming up relatively soon. So just get him another race under his belt, try him on the grass, see what he can do, and then take anything he can take out of this race, take it to Horseshoe against we could probably definitely say is a little bit lower, easier level competition, and hopefully be able to go beat up on them over the summer.
Definitely. And I think that'll be a good bridge to getting back to maybe Louisiana Downs, because we've got a good Louisiana bred. I am not down on this horse at all. It is clearly just for the here and now. It's just a very tough spot and tough assignment for him. But no, we're gonna be okay with Doolgaroux. We're gonna be more than fine with him. And again, like you said, Tommy, it's still a horse race. Stranger things have happened. So
Exactly.
nothing would please me more than to see him to see you smiling, standing next to him in the winner's circle, and then they go to the prices, and West Point and Greg Foley just won a race with a horse that paid $80. That would make my week. I got to tell you,
as it would make mine. I know. I mean, it's happened with West Point and Greg Foley. I think Western Command
on
40
Preakness Day last year in the
Yeah,
slop.
at
Yeah, paid
Churchill,
a
and
gazillion dollars. Yep.
I completely forgot to bet him.
So did I. But I was still very, very happy for sure. Brad Cox, meanwhile, speaking of Horseshoe Indy, and it's nice. It's just nice as time has gone on, and Wednesday racing at times, depending upon what time of the year you're talking about, Wednesday racing is no longer as ubiquitous as it used to be on the major circuits. It's really nice having, again, on sort of a not a ho hum Wednesday, but just an average Wednesday towards the tail end of April. We all love action, so to have 3 horses, including co-invest at Keeneland, and then a good Magic Firster running at Horseshoe Indy, on a random Wednesday, like that gets 2 thumbs up for me or from me. And Brad Cox has got a horse we own in partnership, the number 3 Starsandsixstrings with the Albaugh family stable. This seems like a spot where we can get a race under his belt, not have to run against any monsters, and just get hopefully a positive experience to get this guy going, because I think we've all been waiting to see him in the entry box for quite some time.
Yes, big time. I was really happy to finally see his name pop up. I've had kind of my eyes on him for a while. So I was really happy. Just we can get him started, get him going. I'm not sure if 5.5 is going to be his preferred distance over his career. But it's where you have to start at this time of year with some of these races. So, but looking at all these other horses, it looks like percentage wise, Brad Cox is just fantastic. Firsters, he spots them perfectly. And this, I think we're going to be looking at this race probably 24 hours from now, saying, yep, now we know why put him there, because hopefully he goes and wins big. He
Yeah.
spots them really well, and this looked like it's come up in our favor on paper, it seems. Obviously, like I was just saying, you gotta run the race, but you never know. And I like we get Marcelino Pedrosa up to, who always does really well up at Horseshoe.
Yeah, and he's obviously batting at a very, I mean, him and Brad are 40% with over
Mhm.
40 starters together at Horseshoe Indy. And clearly that is a high percentage move. So again, good luck to Starsandsixstrings. Love this pedigree on the surface. Good magic out of a Holy Bull Dam. That is A-OK with me. So Friday, my friend, closing day at Keeneland, AB. That means Atomic Blonde. Let's go to race number 8, a little after 4 p.m. Eastern, mile and a half, 3 turns on the turf. It's like, oh, yeah, no, we got Parnack coming back and Atomic Blonde. Can't wait to see the both of them as 5-year-olds. All right, so Parnack's going to go to the Sheep's Head Bay in New York. We got Atomic Blonde ready to go at Keeneland. Can't wait to see her in action. And then I'm scrolling last Friday, scrolling down the overnight. It's like, oh yeah, no, great, Atomic Blonde's in. And then I'm like, Warlike Goddess. What? How old is she? 7 years old. She is coming back, a 2-time winner of the Bewitch. She is looking for the old three-peat, my friend.
Hmm. Yeah, I like you. I was very surprised to see her back. We obviously know what she likes to do. She likes to go long as you can run. Mods put her against the boys going a mile and a half on the Breeders' Cup turf the last few years. She's one of the better older mares I've seen run on the grass in the last handful of years that I can remember. But again, she's been beat. It's not like she's invincible. You can see she lost to McCulloch a few back. I think it was Virginia Joy back in 22 that upset her.
Yep.
And so she can be vulnerable, and she's coming off the bench. She hasn't run since Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita, so you never know if she's going to need the race. 7-year-old mare, like you mentioned. And we're obviously coming off the bench as well with Atomic Blonde, but I'm very happy to get her back. And, we get the dynamite team of obviously Christoph, who trains, and we get his top guy, Joel Rosario, riding. Hard to complain about that. So I'm really excited to get her going for her 5-year-old year. I mean, she's bred for the distance, she's bred for this, and wouldn't be too surprised if we're pretty close to, I'm blanking on her name already. More like
Warlike
God.
Goddess. Well, and also,
It's
I mean, you take Warlike, if just like put your hand over Warlike Goddess, like take her out of the fold. And again, she's got to come back as a 7-year-old. And I
Mhm.
would imagine with Bill Mott bringing her back, and he clearly knows her better than anybody on the planet Earth and maybe in all the universe. So you would suspect, I think it's probably a fair assumption to think and say that Bill Mott with the 7-year-old mare who's as solid as Warlike Goddess, he's seen all the right signs. But again, at times, mare comes back from a winter vacation, and then all of a sudden they're just not the same horse. They don't want to do it anymore, and their biological clock is ticking. I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow, but yeah, she does have to come off the layoff. And when you put your hand over her, we stack up beautifully with the rest of this field. I mean, we really do. And I think we saw last year, despite not winning a race, Atomic Blonde's very classy and very talented. And even if we can't beat Warlike Goddess, like the usual good, even first start back of the season, Warlike Goddess shows up. You run second in this race. I mean, it's a nice pot of 300,000. It'd be a little more black type for Atomic Blonde when the day comes when we do sell her as a broodmare prospect. So excited to see her racing. Good luck. Glad she's healthy and she's trained really well. And we'll see how she does against a filly, or I should say a mare, that is really putting up for this kind of division, is like putting up one of the all-time great resumes, certainly, as you were saying, Tommy, in recent memory. It's hard to imagine, or at least envision, horses that have stuck around as long as Warlike Goddess has, and have put up the kind of just wins, beating the boys, Breeders' Cup Turf, so on and so forth. She is phenomenal. Phenomenal is the word, my friend, I came to, Tommy. We've got 2 in Friday at Santa Anita. Hopefully, on a day we shock the world with Atomic Blonde and the Bewitch. This maiden race, and I didn't really dig into the pedigrees, but looking at the connections, who's who, the pedigrees, aesthetically speaking, purchase prices, this might be the best 3-and-up maiden race they have run in 2024 out at the Great Race Place. This field, because we've got Prosper, who we own in partnership with Mike Cow, this field looks absolutely loaded to me. Like, it would not surprise me if there were at least a couple of future stakes horses that are running to break their maiden on Friday out at Santa Anita.
Yeah, that was my first reaction looking at this race. You know, it was a who's who of owners, who's who of trainers, who's who of jocks. I mean, it's just everywhere you look at, you can really almost make a case for any horse. And, you know, it's one of those races that I think just because you can make a case for any horse, it's pretty wide open. I like that we're getting back on the dirt with Prosper here, who you can see he's been very consistent figure wise. And I'd love if we get Rispoli up too. And the race itself, I'm not exactly sure how pace will play out because of all these first time starters. But you know, I would expect some of Bob's horses to break pretty sharp. That Glad horse on the outside who speed fade and just got caught last out with a huge figure. Imagine to be up there. So, and it's not, you're only going, what was it, 5.5? So
Yep. 5.5.
give it all. You got to give it all pretty quick. So this race could hopefully shake up in our favor, and maybe we're close enough and we can close in just in time to find the wire.
Well, it's good to see a big maiden field.
Yes.
I know it potentially makes things that much more difficult or tougher on Prosper. Like, you would imagine, and again, I think a safe assumption, like he's going to need to step up and run the best race he's run, and only his third lifetime start. He's only run twice, and like you were saying, once on the dirt. Not an easy race. Whoever wins is going to have their A game. But I was happy to see out there you got an 11 horse maiden special weight. That was good. So good for Santa Anita, because I feel like every time I put on California, it's like a 5 or 6 horse field with 2 horses that are sub 2-1, which you never like to see. And then the maiden 50, where we have Tracker, who's a first time gelding. They've got an oversubscribed field. I guess they capped it at 9, but they've got a full field. This one-time mark looks pretty serious to me, right? I mean, this 5-year-old, he's obviously had some issues, but and despite being a maiden, he's run some pretty good races. Tracker's going to have to really step up, I think, to if he runs his race, to beat him.
Yeah, and I think the geld too should help him really focus more. One of my favorite angles I like to use handicapping is second. It's actually second off the geld. I usually like to see how they run first time with the equipment change, and then usually after the second race is when it clicks for a lot of these horses, geldings, I should say, and they figure it out and they kind of stop goofing off and they really can focus in. But like you said, this came up as another nice race out in California, going a mile on the grass. I'm just looking for a nice step forward with him, and just a more focused horse, I think, is the thing I'm most looking forward to.
Does seem like he's trained better than he did last year when he got out there, especially breezing on the new synthetic track, the all-weather track. I mean, he's got some nice works, and in my mind, slotting those nice breezes, the fact that he's been gelded, yeah, maybe we just have a horse who's far more engaged and just way more focused. And I hope he runs well. I really do on Friday out there. Before we sign off, Tommy, take a look at. Let me hop over here because we've got. I mean, we covered the 3 from Wednesday, Stars and Six Strings, Atomic Blonde, and then the 2 boys running Friday out at Santa. So it's a busy Wednesday through Friday for the stable. But then, like upcoming races that haven't been drawn yet, starting, and we saw on Slack earlier today, Tom Bellhouse relayed from CC, from Christophe Comont. Carson's has got the green light. He'll be entered tomorrow for the Woodhaven Stakes in his 3-hour debut. But I mean, look at between Carson's and Lady Mia in New York on Saturday, just as I slowly scroll down through basically Derby weekend. I mean, look at all these horses.
I mean, it feels almost like it did going into Keeneland, where we were just, firing on all cylinders. And, a lot of these same horses that ran there at the Keeneland meet, we're going to run back, whether it be up at the Big A, Churchill. But just we're letting them all fly, and I'm excited for it. And there's some big names and a lot of races I've been looking forward to for a very long time. So just ready to get rolling with them again. It's always fun when you have all these races to look forward to, because it's almost like a holiday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's only one Kentucky Derby. There's only one Derby week, one Churchill Downs, and this was always a time of the year, even in my old jobs, working for Naira up in New York, or as recent as down at Gulfstream Park, just always a time of the year that's not matched. Springtime coming around, Derby time, the Triple Crown's always a great time. That's one of the things, like in the modern era of like contemporary racing, I still think that's one of the things racing does well. Like the Triple Crown isn't broke, the 5-week series. So yeah, it's
hard.
always, huh?
It's supposed to be really, really hard to do. I mean, that's why there's only been 13 that have ever done it.
Correct. And I know people get down on the Pimlico Stakes races, and the Preakness it's been a dud. I know the Preakness is still a special race, and I love the Preakness. Some of the last few runnings of the Preakness, even with Rich Strike skipping it, and last year with National Treasure, not taking Blazing Sevens, not taking anything away from those horses. And I know National Treasure won the Pegasus dirt, but they're hardly great horses. I understand the Preakness has been a little lean, but still, yeah, the Triple Crown is supposed to be difficult, and it's just awesome. I mean, you have so much going on within a five-week span, and then clearly just a different ball game. Yeah, the Belmont is the first Saturday in June, but with that being run in Saratoga Springs, I mean, that's going to be absolutely incredible. And much like Louisville getting amped up, and you can even feel it less than 2 weeks out to the Derby, insanely, amped up and pumped up for Derby 150. They're going to do the same thing in Saratoga, if not more so, just because, I mean, we're talking about something that's never been done before in perhaps the greatest. And I don't want to, this isn't to denigrate Lexington or Hot Springs, but in terms of a racing town, it's hard to beat Saratoga Springs, New York, as far as like how beloved racing is up there.
Yeah. And I've already gotten excited for running the Belmont at the Spa. I've thought about it a lot, because how cool it could be. And just, you never know, to have maybe a Triple Crown bid on the line at Saratoga. I mean, you would have never thought that would ever happen, but say that does happen, Saratoga is going to be more alive probably than it ever has been.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And the next stop for many of the 2-year-olds that we bought in March and April, at least the ones that'll be East Coast horses, will be Saratoga. We had a great meet up there last season, both with our 2-year-olds and our older horses. So again, we still got a little bit of room on the Astern, the More Than Ready, the Jimmy Creed, and the European upstart, who probably won't be a Saratoga horse this summer. I could see him later on in the summer, maybe being a Monmouth horse. You've got all those mid-Atlantic tracks. And aside from just Arnaud Delacour, Tommy, being such a high percentage guy for us, and a trainer that's just done a phenomenal job with the horses we've sent him, I think that Fairhill base of his in Maryland, clearly, when you want to strategize and be able to really maximize a horse's ability, you've got all those tracks in the Mid-Atlantic within a short van ride on the horse van.
Yeah, it allows you, if you have your horse stable there, to keep all your options open. So you can looking at three, however many tracks for your next spot. You can see how they come up. You can decide, even if you want to look that deep into it, what's the weather going to look like? All these different factors that you have the ability to get on the van the morning of, send your horse. They're there, then they'll be back at their stable, at their stall at Fairhill. It's a really, really nice thing to have at your disposal, like Arnaud does.
Well, beautiful. Always great hanging out with you. A big thanks. None of this would be possible without me. No, without Jeff Lowe, for sure. Thank you to Jeff behind the scenes. And again, we're all filled with so much gratitude, not only for our horses that make up West Point Thoroughbreds, but I often think, especially around sales time, our partners are the heartbeat. It's the horses and our partners that make this whole thing go. So again, a big, big thanks, tons of gratitude, an exciting time for the stable, and we'll have Joe back in the mix next week. We'll obviously, I don't know, will there be any big races to talk about a week from now, looking ahead?
I don't know. Never know what can come up.
Right. Well, we'll see what's in store next time on the West Point, the WPT podcast. But in the meantime, for Tommy and myself, thanks for tuning in. Good luck to all of our horses. Safe trips to all of our horses, and we'll catch you next time.